Good evening, everyone. I trust that you are all good. I think we can begin. So let's do a recap of Saturday. What did we learn? What was your take back on Saturday's lecture? Anyone? What was your take back? How did you find the lecture? What insights did you take from that? Can all of you hear me though? Thumbs up, thumbs
Yes.
down. Okay. You seem very quiet, so yeah, take back from unit 1 going into unit 2. Any insights? Come on, why is everyone so quiet today? So you understand all the content, don't have any questions, don't have any comments or any insights. After that session, did you go back and reflect on your own supervision style? Um, rough long week. I'm with you there, Andre. It's a long week, and I've got evening lectures every single day except for a Wednesday. Devashri, enlighten us.
Well, yes, it's a long day.
I
It's,
know.
but I think in terms of reflecting on it, literacies, I think, although has its origins in academic texts like grammar and stuff, has now moved, especially in the developing world, to be more engaging with our current context, the decolonialization. So we want students to be more conscious of the inequalities. And critical literacy means us asking our students to reflect on where the knowledge is coming from, um, who it's going to serve, etc. And therefore it's more than just looking at reading, writing, and making meaning out of the knowledge. It's more about engaging with the knowledge more meaningfully. Thanks, Prof.
Thank you. Also, what you have to look at is the literacy is not only about the reading, like you said, the reading, the writing, the understanding, comprehending, and so on. It goes much deeper into that, and I'm sure you would have learned in the other modules that you did for this program that you have different styles. And when I say different styles, is each of us have a different way. I mean, obviously, structure is the same, but the way we adapt it is to our own uniqueness. Okay, we customize our style of supervision. Each student is different, and how you deal with each student is different as well. So when you're looking at supervising a postgraduate student, whether it's honors, masters, and PhD, because it's different levels, your level of supervision is different as well for how you would treat your master's students, novice, going into your honor students, novice, your masters about the middle, and then we have your PhD students who come in with a bit more knowledge and experience. So I think the styles we must always reflect on, and the take back from not just this module but all the modules that you are doing from this entire program would be, how are you going to, you learning about all this, how to supervise, methods of supervision, how to help your students and so on. But we also have to go reflect on what we are currently doing, where do we need to improve, because it's all about continually improving on our supervision skills. All right, helps us learn from ourselves, it helps us learn from each other, and how we reflect now on the things, the take backs. That's why I'm asking, what did you take back from this? Did you now, if you had met from what is it, Saturday until now, if you had a consult with a master's or honors or PhD student, did you reflect and look at what you've learned in all these various modules for this program, and how are you now adapting it because whatever you attain, the knowledge you attain, you're going to adapt it in your own supervision skills. I must say, just having lectured in this program, I've also enhanced on my skills. Okay, I've learned a lot, and I learn a lot from others that are also supervising. I learn from you guys as students. So the last thing that we tapped on was the middle child, as I call it, which is the master's level researcher. And we spoke a little bit more about the PhD candidate. Okay, how would you, are you able to see? Sorry, I didn't even ask whether you could see the slides.
Now I can see now. I couldn't see earlier, but then when you
Sorry,
flipped the
but
slides, I
I'm
could
having
see.
no problem. But I'm having a problem with my laptop as well, so I'm not sure how long we can have a session, but we will continue with the session until I'm hoping that it behaves. So my laptop kind of out of warranty, so I'm waiting for a new laptop, and it's freezing. So I'm having a difficult time this whole week with lectures, but I still push through. So at any time, if you're not going to see it, then we'll still push through on the on your notes, okay? Your learner, your content guide. So looking at the PhD students, so like I said, you have different levels. Your levels as a supervisor varies when you are supervising different students at those levels. It is assumed that at this level, the doctoral student or PhD candidate becomes a knowledge producer because they have a bit more experience, and also they need less guidance on the work that they are doing. Unlike your honors and master students, you basically have to baby them, right? And you have to take them and hold their hand through every process of the supervision journey, so or research journey, where you have to show them step by step how to do the proposal, how to go to the next chapters, etc., etc. Okay, all the different processes that they have to follow. However, at the level of a PhD candidate, they're more experienced. They're not novice. They've been in the system. They've underwent a master's. They've underwent their honors. They've graduated. So they know what to do. You're not holding their hand. In some instances, you can actually leave them on their own to navigate through their PhD study. Okay, not completely alone, but it's not as much attention as holding the hand of your honors and master's students. So it is said that at the PhD level, they become knowledge producers. And what I learned over the years through my experience when I was actually doing my own PhD, okay, being young academic, you're doing your PhD, um, obviously having a bit more knowledge from when I was studying my master's. So I was told by my supervisor that I should actually be supervising or co supervising at that time a master's student while I am undertaking my PhD study. Why do you think that is? Because I was like, but I've got my own studies to do. It's a lot for me, it's a lot of research, but it's all about knowledge sharing, being a knowledge producer and sharing that knowledge at a PhD level. So if you are studying a PhD or you have a student that is doing their PhD, they can actually co supervise a master's student or honors student that you have, because they can impart their knowledge and also it enhances their experience as a student. Devashri?
Um, Prof, I'm not sure about other institutions, but
Okay,
our institution has a strict policy that
okay,
says unless you have a PhD and supervision experience, you're not allowed to supervise at master's and PhD level. Now, coming from another sister institution,
yeah.
with the masters, you could supervise masters. But this is so the institutional practices differ. And I don't know, like, what's your thoughts about that?
Okay, so our institution, I don't know who else is from UJ, but I know a few of you from UJ here. I'm not sure what your department does or what your faculties do, but for us, honestly, at the PhD level, we're not so strict. Um, at a PhD level, if a student is studying for a PhD, they can co-supervise, not main. You have to, in order to become main, you must have graduated. So co-supervising a master's student. So I have a PhD student that I am supervising, right? And that PhD student is co-supervising with me on a master's student. So it's all about knowledge sharing and knowledge gaining. And I don't think we have a strict policy that says no, you can't. You know, I get the thing about you can. We were told this: supervise a master's if you have a PhD, right? Um, so it had to be either equivalent of that level or a level higher in order to supervise, which is still the norm, right? Um, but then now my question is, how do you gain experience? You have to start somewhere. So I think that's just basically my perception of it. But I was actually wasn't advised, but they told me if I wanted to, I could supervise, and I chose to actually supervise. But I think also because we were academics doing further studies, I think the policy is different. I don't know if it is somebody from external, outside of a university, coming from industry, if they can supervise. But being an academic, like I said, I was a lecturer at that time doing my PhD. Yeah, and I was co-supervising to do that. So I think maybe policies, like you said, Devashri, differs. But for us on this, anyone else from UJ here that has experienced that? Teboho?
Yes, Prof. Good evening to you and
Good evening.
colleagues. Yes, in my department, I'm under CBE, College of
Yes.
Business Economics. So in my department, above and all the policy that is there, they also went and broke it down to say if you are doing PhD or masters, you can co-supervise a masters and then
Yeah.
supervise honors on yourself or by yourself,
Yes.
right? And then
Yes.
PhD, they say once you have successfully supervised a master's to completion,
Yes.
then you can be
Graduated.
allowed to co-supervise another PhD.
Yes.
Yes, that's how so
Thank.
they went on and broke it down for us to suit the
Yes.
department. Yes.
Yeah. So I think a lot of departments within UJ actually do that.
Yeah.
Devashri. So think, yeah, it differs. Policies will differ. Like I said, there's no definitive policy that we have, well, not that I know of, but this is something that we followed. And I'm talking, this is something when I first came into UJ, which was 2010. Um, and I just started my PhD at that time. So, yeah, and I didn't have any supervision experience. So I learned from my supervisor for my PhD and co-supervised with him. Um, Lindiwe?
Sorry guys, I was changing devices because I joined on my phone
Okay.
because I was driving. Hi Prof and hi colleagues.
I,
So I just wanted to input what I've experienced. So
yeah.
in our department, I'm in the medical imaging and radiation sciences department. When I started supervising, I already had my master's, and I believe if they're going to say co, yes, from the beginning you can co so that you can gain that confidence
And that
through your
experience, yes.
supervision. However, if you will have to have begun with your PhD in order for you to main a master's, then what happens again in terms of the promotion applications and all of those other processes, because it impacts that when you submit
Yes.
promotion, they'll tell you need to have supervised
Yes.
a main supervisor. In this instant, so many times you need to have been a coach, so many times you need to have published as a main so many times, and as a, so I think maybe those decisions will also impact how people progress in academia. But with us, you are allowed to
Yes.
main, even if you have just your masters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Devashti, I hope that gives you a bit of understanding of UJ's processes. So most of us, yeah, at master's level, we are allowed to co-supervise if we already have our masters doing a PhD, and yeah, there's no
No,
strict policy.
thanks, Prof. I think you drew on what I was really contemplating is how do you progress as a supervisor?
Yes.
And so, but yeah. So thank you so much.
No problem. But what I want to add to that, and this is for everyone, is like everyone's like you have to have experience. It's even the same when we were just doing this week, right? The nomination for assessors, right? And they always say no, but you must get somebody experienced and stuff like that. You got to start somewhere. You have to have supervised at some level. You have to start somewhere on a zero slate and build your way up to where we are today. So if nobody gives you that chance, and like Lindiwe said and Tiboko said, if somebody didn't give us that chance, myself included, we wouldn't have enhanced our supervision skills. We were guided by somebody that was willing to teach us how to supervise. We didn't have all these programs and stuff at that time. So it also helps with the support structure. If someone is willing to give you that opportunity to supervise, if you've just got a master's, well and good. I mean, you in the middle, you're a middle child, you have enough knowledge to supervise, but you're not alone. You're not thrown in the deep end. You're guided by a main supervisor. All right. So we're looking at the PhD. So if you are doing a PhD, you can, like we broke it down, UJ, there's no strict policy against it. We are all for it. And we're looking at the PhD level, how learned are the students? And like we mentioned, there is a lot of difference from a master's going into the PhD. They have a lot more knowledge. Somebody mentioned confidence, and they have a lot more confidence in their ability to do research. All right. So that 2.4 actually unpacks what it is like at a PhD level. They have more knowledge, more confidence, and the quality of their work is at a certain level because they are a bit more advanced than the honors and master's students. They can actually impart knowledge onto the master's and honors students. 2.5 touches on scholarly identities as a reader and a writer. Okay. It is possible for postgraduate students and supervisors to have a range of reading abilities as well as writing abilities. All of us do not write in the same way because of the various disciplines that we have. So, again, when you are supervising, how do we supervise and teach our students? So, say honors level, because sometimes I even find myself at a PhD level with my PhD candidates. You have to also show them how to write because they were at honors level. It's a different level of writing, also reading, understanding, and comprehending. Um, and the next unit actually unpacks that quite nicely on how different levels of reading and our ways in which we read, the ways in which we write. Discipline wise as well, how you would present your work and write it visually, typing, putting diagrams, putting in tables, putting in equations, and so on. It just depends on the nature of the field that the student is studying. Like I mentioned on Saturday, that um, engineering space is a bit different from, say, you from CBE. So the style of writing for your masters or honors students, yes, we all follow the same structures, headings, and so on. But the writing, the actual content that we do would be slightly different. Engineering, a bit more of technical, practical approach where we do a lot of lab work and experiments and so on. Right? So reporting on all that is a bit different from the work that CBE, for example, will be doing. Those of you that are in the medical field, sciences, and so on, slightly different from how CBE or engineering would be doing it. CBE, for those of you who don't know, is College of Business and Economics. Someone had their hand up and put it down. Fundo, was that you?
Yes, no, it was me, Kenny.
Yes, Prof. It was me
Kenny.
first.
Okay, because I saw one. Okay, Fundo and then Kenny. So I can see the hands up on the side.
I wanted to also say something about the scholarly identity in terms of publications. What I've noticed, there are certain publications and, okay, all publication, journal, articles, books, they've got different styles of writing,
Yes.
format, structure, and the preferences in terms of referencing. Some prefers
Yes.
Harvard, some APA, Chicago, and etc.
Yes.
So, and what I've noticed in the academic space, especially to professors, full professors or associate professors, they don't just go to any conference, or they don't just publish with any journal. They've got those specific journals that they published with, yes, because I think as young academics or early or emerging scholars, we get excited to see our name on a journal, or get excited to see our name on a conference proceedings. Then I remember when I was referring a colleague and to a conference, he said, "No, I don't attend this kind of conferences. I attend specific conferences, and I only attend conferences where I become a keynote speaker or something like that, or I become, if I get involved in something that holds a higher position." So
Yes.
I think it also falls under the scholarly identity. Yeah, I just wanted to give the input on that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to add something more to that with my own experience. Kenny?
Thank you, and sorry that I have to go back to what you talked about earlier, but it was just to appreciate, when I hear people say they give opportunities to PhD students to co-supervise, and their name is put on the dissertation as well.
Yes.
Because I have witnessed that, during my time when I was doing my PhD, a number of supervisors would ask me and some of my colleagues, to assist their master's students, and we would help for quite a long time. But in some cases, you wouldn't see your name on the dissertation, and I think it's quite helpful to have people who are willing to share, this stage, and to also give people a platform to grow and have experience. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I just feel very strongly, like I said, because I was given a lot of opportunities, and if it doesn't start somewhere, I mean, you got to start somewhere. I mean, there's a reason why you're sitting here today as a supervisor. Okay, you were given that opportunity to supervise at some point, some earlier than others. But I mean, you made it. You're there. You are a supervisor. You have postgraduate students. You have the ability and the capabilities to do that, the knowledge and the experience to do that. Needs to start somewhere. Even if you, as an examiner, and I argued this a lot, because when it goes to faculty higher degrees, they always look at experience and publication. I'm like, no. Eventually the person is going to get there, but they need to start somewhere. All right. Okay, so that's kind of diverting now. I want to add on to what Mfundo has said in terms of going for conferences and journals, and this speaks to your scholarly identity and how you write and how you read, whether you're a supervisor, whether you're a student that is submitting for either the conference or the journal, because generally that's what we do with our students. We publish with them. I like where you said, Mfundo, that a lot of professors, associate or full, whatever the case may be, and like I said, my experience, yes, we do target specific conferences and specific journals. I generally, the reason why I target specific conferences, let's go with the conference first before the journals, because I am part of that society. Okay. So that conference society, so there's various societies and professional bodies that do these conferences, right? And I partake in it because a lot of the times I'm a keynote or I'm part of the organizing committee because I'm a member of that society. So I would tend to obviously be a bit more biased and move towards those specific conferences. Journals, the same, because you are part of and you have a membership, right? So with the engineering faculty, we have professional bodies, whether it's industrial, whether it's electrical, civil, chemical, etc. You have professional bodies and they have conferences throughout the year. Those professional bodies are part of global bodies and they have conferences, not conferences, journals that are international journals, right? Acclaimed journals. And obviously you gravitate a bit more to the ones that you're more familiar with, you know, right? So yeah, it's a bit biased in the way that we think, but I get what you're saying because I also do that. And yes, your template, you're so used to that particular style, that template, that format, that structure, their processes, so you kind of follow suit, and that becomes your scholarly identity. Like for engineering, you have IEEE Society, which is Industrial Engineering and Electrical, and it's an international engineering society, professional body, and accredited by EXA, which is Engineering Council of South Africa. And we tend to gravitate towards that because of the professional accreditation linked to it with EXA, right? And we have to be EXA accredited as individuals as well, or certified. So yeah, it's your scholarly identity in that community, if I may say so. All right. So that you will write only specifically for those type of journals and conferences. Mfundo, and then we move on.
Okay, thank you. It's a question.
Yeah.
The question is now about our scholarly identity. As we said that we get to use the structure, the format, and everything about that particular publication of our profession. So now what I've seen and what I've observed, especially in meetings that I attend in my institutions. So now DHE is not quite happy about scholars who published with certain publication. For example, let's say I'm publishing with UKZN or VETS Press. So they are saying why that's a researcher or that academic scholar, is publishing with one publication or with one journals, why people shouldn't consider multiple journals. They say it's like the people are doing us favors. They know us now.
Yeah, I get
And
that.
so people get comfortable to use one publication because it could be they've made friends, they even know the peer reviewers and etc. Whereas we don't get to see some of the peer reviewers. Some they approach us separately and say, look, I once peer reviewed your article about this and this and this. Can we collaborate on this? So yeah. So I think it's the DHE requirement in terms of submitting our publication. It is going to cause a lot of implication when it comes to our scholarly identity by coercing us to publish with several publication instead of targeting those publications that you feel comfortable to publish with. Thank you.
Yeah, and I get that. And again, I've experienced this. So applying for NRF rating, okay? So DHET has their own processes, right? NRF has their own processes. DHET will not accredit, not, I wouldn't say not accredit, but if you are consistent in one particular conference or one journal, it's not showing multidisciplinary and it's not showing diversity, right, in your work. It just shows it's one track. And yes, I know sometimes with the medical fields and the sciences and even engineering, it can be mostly one tracked, okay? But they want more multiple authors, okay? And they want multiple disciplines. They want different types of journals and conferences. So kind of like a mix of everything. I know the DHEAD processes because I've been through it. However, NRF as well does the same. If you are only producing publications in one conference, then it's going to set off red flags in that why are you not presenting them? That's where it comes to Mfundo, what Mfundo was saying, that it looks biased and it's you're familiar and you know that you submit. And I've had experience with people that have done this, other academics that have done this, that keep sending to the same conference because they know the chairperson, they know the committee, and it's familiarity. And you know that your publications are going to get accepted, which kind of have to look at the ethical part of it. How ethical are we actually being in those conferences and journals? As much as you want to develop this identity for yourself, but you also have to broaden your scope. For those of you that are supervising and publishing, right, with those students, and you are eventually going to apply for NRF rating as an academic, those of you in academia, and I'm sure all of you are in academia right now because you are supervisors, you need to be careful with being that you have to be multidisciplinary. This is one of the things that came up from NRF. Okay, so you even your supervision, because they want a whole list of supervision. The students you supervise, the topics you've supervised. So they look at multidisciplinary and there's also interdisciplinary, right? And I'm still trying to understand what is the difference between the two because to me it looks like the same, but they say that it's different. But anyway, so when you are getting to that stage of NRF rating as a supervisor, as an academic, you need to look at that multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary way. You have to have diversity even in your supervision. All right, so that was looking at your scholarly identity as a supervisor, as a PhD student. Now, as a supervisor, it's already what I spoke about. PhD students, their identity differs. Much like we spoke about on Saturday, identities differ. What you wrote and how you produced your work for your master's is different from the process that you're going to follow from your PhD. The writing is going to be different. Your reading and your comprehension is going to be different. Your identity changes from a master's student to a PhD student, your scholarly identity. Much like 2.6 says, your supervisor identity changes. Okay? And let's see if you remember what I just said when we started this lecture. How does it change? The way we supervise changes our identity. How does it change? What makes it change? Anyone can remember? Chairman, are you tired? I'm tired as well, but we're all here to learn. Anyone?
Can I?
Yes, please.
I think at PhD we need to allow the students to work more independently and kind of foster that independent work and identity. whereas with our honors and master students, we're still a little bit more hands-on.
Yeah, you're still guiding them, like holding
Guiding
their hand through that entire process, right? Your role as a supervisor changes at each stage. Remember, I mentioned at the honors, at the masters, at the PhD level, your role as a supervisor, your identity as a supervisor changes. You don't supervise in one monotonous tone. It's varying styles. So even though all of us are in different disciplines, we have different styles of supervising, but you also have different styles of supervising at different levels of their postgraduate studies. Everyone with me? So that's kind of what 2.6 actually takes us into, is your identity as a supervisor when it comes to academic literacy, and how much of a role are you playing in their supervision. Okay, and we're going to look at your experiences. Okay, before we actually come into the end of unit 2, and then I will unpack assignment 2 for you. Anyone wants to touch on their experiences? I have a lot of experiences and a lot of stories through my supervision journey. Anyone wants to give us maybe positive, even a negative experience that you've had as a supervisor, so that we can all learn from either the positive or the negative on your experience as a supervisor? Because remember, unit 2.6 is about your role and your identity as a supervisor. Anyone have any extreme experiences while supervising students? Those of you that are supervising, upcoming supervisors in the stage of supervision. Anyone wants to share their experiences? No one. I'd like to tell you a story about my, was it first supervision? I was supervising a master's student um, during my PhD, right? And I was also supervising honor students. So it was actually a module that we were doing. It wasn't honors, sorry, it was BTech at the time, right? So at the BTech level, if those of you remember the BTech program and how it was structured, you had taught modules and then you had a mini dissertation or minor dissertation that they had to do, which was called a project. So it was a BTech project, right? So a project in whatever discipline they were doing. So I was, obviously, we had a class of maybe 30 somewhat students in that class, and I was the facilitator and supervisor of all 30 students, right? And like I said, I always gave them templates, like holding their hand, spoon feeding them, giving them everything, right? Um, I had a student produce work, right? And the writing, she hardly consulted. That we had one-on-ones with the students. We also had class sessions, and all of a sudden she gives me a full report, right? So I'm in quality engineering, so my specialization is quality, right? um, Within engineering. So I look at this work and she gives you a full work without even consulting or giving you chapter by chapter progress or any kind of progress. And here all of a sudden, boom, you got a final report, right? Finished with data and everything. I look at the work, and when I'm reading the work, it's identical. I had already graduated, sorry, with my PhD at that time. It's identical to my PhD chapter 2. She literally took everything from my chapter 2 and put it in there. She even took my results from my chapter 4 and put it in there. I mean, it's my work. Obviously, I know my work. I know my students' work as well. So if you're going to duplicate anybody's work, I'm going to know the difference. Quality field is so scarce. It's a scarce field. It's so, we even struggle to get examiners, right? And I brought it to the attention of the student, and I'm like, but how can you give me something knowing I'm the lecturer and that's my work that you are duplicating, you know? And yet I supervised them and told them, we're going to do Turnitin. We're going to know if you copied and pasted, and chunks and chunks of a chapter 2, chunks and chunks of my results. She actually took my actual results from my chapter 4 and passed it off as her own without conducting the study on her own. So these are the funny experiences that you're going to come up with. But how do you mitigate this? You as a supervisor now, you come across way out elaborate experiences. But our role as a supervisor, how do we navigate these students? Do I just fail the student outright? Well, I didn't end up failing the student. I did pass her. I made her redo all the work, but not everyone is going to be as lenient. But you guide them from the beginning. But even though you're guiding them, this is basically why I'm telling you the story is my question. You guide them, you supervise them, but they don't follow what you are doing, or they don't follow that guidance. What do you do? In that instance, what do you do? Anyone? Have you experienced? Obviously, I don't think you would have experienced something as elaborate as mine, but once in a lifetime, we laughed it off and that was it. It was actually quite a serious offense, but I didn't take it to that level. Anyone wants to share their experience as a supervisor and how did you mitigate it? How did you help the student? So remember, you're not only playing the role of a supervisor, we also tend to play the role of a for a lack of words, psychologists, people having they can't continue with their studies. Remember, a lot of personal issues come into it as well. So you as a supervisor now, this is a different identity, different cap you have to use. Karen?
One experience that I had, which was also telling for me, the student couldn't meet, was never meeting, was always busy, and did a submission that missed a whole section of what he needed to do. So in theory, he could have been failed for that section and potentially made to repeat the module, which was quite a big wake-up call for him. So I think it was the first time that he realized that he needed to meet with me as his supervisor so that I could give
Yes.
him some input. And I think it was such a big wake-up call for him that thereafter we met every week for I don't know how many months until he got it right. But I think for him and for me, I also realized the importance of absolutely insisting that we meet, because he didn't have it on his own, and he definitely like wasn't following at all what he needed to do. He kind of thought he could do it with a shortcut, and that wasn't the case. So I think it was definitely a big sign for him, but also a big learning for me, that if they're not meeting with me and they're trying to dodge me, I actually need to follow up quite a lot to make sure that we do make sure the work is on track.
Absolutely, because your role as a supervisor, like I said, takes on various caps, right? And various identities. You got to chase after these students. And funny enough, the past 2 weeks, that's what I was doing with my master's and PhD students. They don't consult, they just, and then all of a sudden, and you be surprised at how often this actually happens. They just come with work already completed.
Yeah.
You've given me a whole dissertation or whole thesis. Where did you get this from when I never saw you? I
Yeah.
only must have saw you at your proposal level and that was it. So I can understand. And it's so important that you do. And this is why you're learning about supervision, that consultation. And I'm not saying group consult because you do your group sessions and stuff, which is fine. But you still have to have, I think, from my perspective, that individual consultation is so important for these students to navigate them through this entire journey. So yeah, it's very important to have that, and it's learning, it's a learning experience. If I don't chase those students and I keep quiet, they keep quiet, no work gets done.
Yeah, it definitely
And then
taught me I need to chase.
yeah, I was doing that. The literally the past 2 weeks I've been chasing students, these masters and doctoral students. Thank you so much for that, Karen.
Sure.
Devashri and then Fundo.
Thanks for that experience, relating that experience to us. It's something I'm definitely gonna be watching out for in the future. But I think, we also have to contextualize ourselves in terms of, or putting ourselves students' shoes, and sometimes they do face external influences, and
Yes.
and they, they're novices, they don't know what to do, they become overwhelmed. And I
Yes.
think we just need to understand that we as supervisors need to provide the structure, provide the plan for going forward. And I remember in our first module, which we did with the compulsory module in supervision, that Prof really emphasized that initial meeting, even if it means taking minutes, recording those meetings to show that we are engaging with the students and we're doing everything possible to be, to kind of recording the journey along with the student.
Absolutely.
So even if they decide to disappear, we can actually say that, we've made every effort to get the student where the student needs to be. And if the student is then transgressing any ethical boundaries, we can, show them and bring them back on track. So I think, it's a balancing kind of endeavor where we're going to have to balance our role with the student who, um, you know, may transgress or doesn't know what they're doing, and it's influenced by so many things as well. Thanks, Prof.
No, definitely. And I like that you touched on the external factors because students are heavily influenced by external factors as well. That is why I mentioned you end up becoming a psychologist and so on. It's that is one of the roles you have to play. So it's not only the role of an academic. I actually found myself sometimes being like a motherly figure, okay, to my students, and especially the ones at the novice level, because they get, like you said, so overwhelmed. Sometimes it's especially the ones at honors lives. First time you're doing research, it's overwhelming. I mean, we've been there. We've been at that novice level, and as I mentioned, I didn't have research methodology background, and I went straight into doing my master's without having any knowledge of how to even develop a proposal. You know, and it was like I thought I wasn't going to make it. And I would literally cry when I'm writing. I am crying and I am writing. So, like you said, put yourself in the shoes of the students because we've been there at some stage. We were that student. We were being supervised, but also we learn from these experiences so we make ourselves better, and we know that our students are dealing with pressures, they're dealing with work, they're dealing with balancing that work and studying, right? They're dealing with mental health issues, they're dealing with physical health issues, and you've got to be attentive. How do you bring the student with all these external factors? How do you bring them back on track? And that is now your identity and your role, not just a scholarly identity, but it goes beyond just being, like I said, an academic. Anyone can be just straightforward, strict academic, but you know what? We human at the end of the day. We have emotions, we feel things, and know that students are feeling exactly what we were going through when we had to go through this journey. Fundo?
Thank you so much. I would like to concur with the previous two speakers. It is imperative to put ourselves in students' shoes. With my first master's degree, I was very agitated by the whole supervision. I used to do my consultation on the street because my supervisor was working for the Jehovah Witness church. She had a PhD, very good academic scholar. Then I would feel like I'm a hobo because everything that I do with my supervisor, we do it on the street. When it
You're
comes to
mobile,
do
yeah.
it, yeah, when it comes to do it on, I don't get time to sit in the office, whereas other students would meet with their supervisor in a coffee shop, in a restaurant, and etc. Then it would be me traveling all the way from Johannesburg to Durban to meet my supervisor by the South Beach or to meet my supervisor by the workshop. You know, if you are familiar with the workshop in Durban and
Yes.
how hectic and busy it is, that environment.
Yes.
Yeah, but despite all those challenges, I was able to complete the qualification. With my second supervisor, the way he pitched in terms of supervision, I think he was impressed. He was very impressed with because those were two different masters. Then when I was doing my professional master's degree now, my actually master's degree of the qualification that I did in undergrad, then my supervisor, I think, was impressed by my first draft and everything. Then he treated me as a PhD student. And he would even ask me to go through other students' work that he's supervising at the master's level to give feedback as well, to assist them in formulating your problem statement, writing research questions and objectives, and etc. Then I did that very well. Two students, we were the cohort of the same year. Two of them graduated before I graduated. So they graduated before I graduated. So I've experienced so many things when it comes to the supervision. Going back to the question that you've posed, I've got students that I'm supervising within the university. They work in different departments, and they have positions there. Then I had a student who didn't come to consult with me, and that student never consulted. The student would just send the proposal or whatever idea she has on email. Then I would give the feedback. Then I would recommend that can we meet in person? I think it will be better if I say this verbally so that you understand it as well. Then she decided to run away. I don't know how many emails I've been sending, CCing the HOD and the coordinator for the program so that they can see that I've been interacting with the student. And the student decided to go to the DVC because knows the DVC, one of the DVCs, then said bad things about me, that I don't even follow up. I don't even send this and that and that. Then the DVC spoke to my HOD. Then the HOD sent the trails of emails where I've been communicating with the student, where I've been encouraging the student to arrange meetings with me. Then, yeah, she influenced other students who were doing the same course that if your supervisor is Mr. Fadebe, please try to get another supervisor because you're going to have challenges of this and that and that. Then some student on the graduation, especially when they got the Dean's Award, and the DPC was there, then they quoted my name that without Mr. Khadebe, we don't think we would be able to complete this qualification. So we come across with so many like challenges and the caliber of student. Yes. We have got different perceptions about us as supervisors. Some say good things, some say bad things because of what they formulated in their mind and what they have concluded about us. So I just wanted to bring that on the table.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's also so important. We spoke about this in unit 1, matching with your with the student, right? It's not only about, okay, fine, student has been allocated or requested you as a supervisor because of your expertise in that particular field that they want to research and so on. Um, it's important to also, you're going to get conflicting ideas between you as a supervisor and the student. You're going to get clash of personalities. I've had that happen before. Mfundo, I've had a student tell me you are the most horrible supervisor, but yet she disappeared for 1 year. And then she decided to come back to complete her studies. and she's rushing me now to push the work because she needs to complete the studies, or she gets with UJ you get an F7 because now you in the system too long. Okay, you've overstayed your welcome basically. um so you get very difficult students, but you as a supervisor, you need to know how to handle that. You get all calibers of student, all different characters, behavioral traits, and so on. And you're not always going to be in sync with your students, right? And yes, they're going to tell you you're a horrible supervisor, and but at the end of the day, much like yourself, you get the thanks when the student is actually graduating. Thank you so much for pushing me. Thank you for putting up with me, tolerating all that. But we got and the reason why I tolerate is because I put my supervisor, my master supervisor, who's still my mentor up till now, and she's like family to me. I'm from KZN, so yes, I do know about the workshop and South Beach, but I gave her a hard time. I think I was a really, really impossible student. I was the first student that she actually supervised. She hasn't supervised anyone. She was also quite new, and I was the first student that she actually supervised. And I gave her a hard time. So I think I kind of humbled myself now in that I learned from that what a hard time I gave her. And it's like my students now give me a hard time. I know how to deal with it because of what I did to her. I mean, I wasn't nasty, but I was rebellious in the fact that she tell me to do certain things and I won't end up doing it. And, I wanted to do things in a certain way because this is what I felt comfortable with, because this is my style of writing, my style of doing things. And she wanted me to write in a certain way and, present the work in a certain way. But yeah, we clashed a lot. But eventually, like I said, we are like family right now. And yeah, it's a lot. That's what I'm saying. It's not, it goes way beyond just learning literacy skills, learning about ethics, learning, and yes, the ethics goes with it as well. How ethical are the students? But it's also that relationship that you build with the student, because you with the student for 2 3 years, right? Sometimes I was full-time masters, I think, is 1 year. Um, part-time is 2 years. So you with the student for a very long time, and you're building a relationship with the student in terms of an academic, that relationship, the student supervisor relationship, you know and they will also come to you with their problems and so on. I mean, I've had enough. I think I told you guys that a lot of people thought I was not approachable, but I actually am approachable. My students will tell me their entire life story. I think because I listen. I don't really talk, but I listen. And they will come and, oh, I can't. I've got writer's block. And one of my questions to you guys is also going to be, how do you help a student that is stuck with their writing? So take away all the issues that they have, the character clashing and so on, the conflicts and stuff. But getting the student back on track is the main thing. Having those consults or one-on-one consultations is very important. Teaching them how to write in a particular style. And you're going to get students that, but I did it this way in my honors. But no, you've not progressed from your honors. You in your masters. You need to do it this way. And that is what my supervisor at the time was trying to teach me. You need to do it in this way at this level. Whatever you did in your master's, it's a bit different to your PhD. Adhere to the guidance that the supervisors are giving you. Okay, any other experiences you'll want to share before we move on? I want to unpack your assignment 2. I'm still going to speak to you guys about your assessments. On Saturday, we'll unpack it, how you're going to submit and so on. Nothing? We can move on. All right. So we go to page 33 of your content guide. Sorry, my screen is freezing a bit. Just give me a moment. Follow in your content guide. So you will notice I didn't go too much into the activities, but what is important is the assignments, okay? So we unpacked your assignment 1. This is what is required of assignment 2. Write 1,000 to 1,200 word reflective essay in which you identify the categories that describe aspects of your practice and identities as a supervisor. That is why I was asking you for examples and experiences, because a lot of what you're going to do in your assessments of your assignments, right? Not a, well, it forms part of your assessments, is a lot of reflection of what you do, your own practices, right? Which defines your identity, your scholarly identity as a supervisor. So that is why I try to get you all to talk about your experiences, because it feeds into the assignments that you are going to do. So see that it says describe aspects of your own practices and identities as a supervisor of these postgraduate students. Developing academic literacy practices. Explain why these categories apply to you and your way of supervision, right? We're going to go through that table just now. Do your practices vary according to the student with whom you are working and according to the stage of their project? So again, like we said, you have different stages of development and you have different stages in the project of how you supervise them. If they do, describe how they vary and why. All right. If they do not, say why not. For bonus credits, are all of your practices captured in this framework? If not, briefly describe any of your practices which are not accommodated in it. So if you are doing something outside of what this framework is suggesting, put it in. This is one of the practices that I used, and explain why you used it, even if it's not here. Okay, so we have the different concepts, or the different, yeah, well, different concepts that we need to follow, right? This is what I spoke about just now, building that relationship, right? And when you build that relationship, you know, you kind of form this bond with the student, that trust with the student. You become a mentor, you empower them, they become very motivated, inspired. They even feel cared for, because of that relationship. They can even come to you about the issues of, I'm unable to finish this submission or this chapter or this progress report that you need because of XYZ, right? You also become a caregiver at this point under that relationship development. So it is important to build that relationship with your students. And you could do get, yes, difficult students, right? Then we have functional, right? So you can have a few disciplines, right? A few of these concepts. You may have other concepts that you use as your practice. How functional are you? To you, the issue here is project management. How many of you actually have a specific work plan? I want to show you what I basically do with my students when I'm supervising. So that's being functional, where we spoke about in that initial meeting when you meet the student, you map out an entire schedule and so on for the students, so that they know for the remainder of their research journey, this is what they need to do. Okay, so it becomes functional. And with that functional, one moment for me, I just want to show you. Where is this? My generic work plan for what I do for my master's students. Okay, kind of incorporate it also, but to a more advanced level for my um, PhD students. It's still opening. Okay, it's open. Let me just share this with you guys. Can you all see my screen? So it's a generic work plan that I have. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, no? Okay. All right. So proposed work plan that I will take them through in my initial meeting. So this is more of a functional structure that I have, right? This is what is expected of you as a student. So as a supervisor, this is what I map out for them. Okay, so they know what is expected of them of this entire research journey. So even though it's the initial meeting, I map out everything that is required for them of this, of every chapter, what goes into it, how detailed they need to go, how they link it, and every process they have to follow in terms of doing the ethical clearance for their study, getting their instruments also evaluated before we can distribute or our questionnaires or conduct interviews or conduct our experiments and so on, right? So this is my generic work plan for them. Okay, I use it both for the master's and PhD students. We also have a progress report at every stage of their journey. We do progress reports, and we look at doing a progress report every 3 months, and we have a template for that. I'm trying to look for it right now, but I can't find it. And this is how you track your students to see, are they consulting, are they doing are they progressing well, and what's holding them back? Like we just mentioned, Karen was also saying she has to chase after students to consult. We have to chase after students to consult because a lot of them get lost. They get writer's block or something happens along the way. And if we don't pull them back, they stay lost. Some of them disappear. Like I said, one student disappeared for 1 year and then pushed me to do the work and then calls me a horrible supervisor, but still got her to graduate. But this is things that we have to, the roles that we have to play as a supervisor. So functionally, that is what I do in terms of, share the screen again, in terms of having a proper project management process in place, and that maps out like a roadmap of what they need to do. Then you have the concept of enculturation, where the student is encouraged to become a member of a disciplinary community where they can form their own groups in that particular discipline, right? So we have a lot of, we call them research groups, right? So they group themselves because they have similar topics and disciplines in common, and they can help each other. Also, external communities like being part of a professional body and so on also helps them with the discipline that they are studying in. Encouraging your students to use their critical thinking, and I think most of us do this, right? How they analyze their work. Also, the literacy comes in here where they have to now learn how to write, learn how to read, and different ways of reading. Like I said, Unit 3 unpacks how we actually read and gather information on a specific discipline or topic. Emancipation, students are encouraged to question and develop themselves, right? And this is where you, as a mentor, now comes in. How do you actually encourage them and empower them? And you can do this a lot more, PhD level, like you said, more self-directed, in that you expect them to do a lot of the work on their own, right? Because they have the background, they've been through the master stage, they're encouraged to develop on their own. But yet, the honors and master's student need a bit more encouragement and development in this aspect. So, looking at just these concepts, is there anything else in your own practice that you have that's not mentioned here? So, it tells you as a supervisor, this is what you're supposed to do. Look at progression of their tasks, right? Enforce your gatekeeping. You would have learned about gatekeeping under one of your modules. I think it was ethics, research ethics, right? You would have learned about gatekeeping. Doing evaluations of how your students actually critically analyze the work that they are writing, providing support, mentoring them, and then developing that relationship, right? That is what you need to do as a supervisor. Also, the skills that you're supposed to attain when you are supervising, and the outcome you expect from the student, possible student reaction. Okay, your rubric is given to you. If you want the most marks, this is what you're supposed to have: a clearly written detailed description and explanation. If you want fair marks, that's what you should have. And if you're not interested, you're going to get marked down if you give us something that's not there. So again, a question that's posed to you. Are there any practices on those concepts in that table that you want to add? Add your experience for I'm saying chapter for assignment 2. Anyone wants to relate? Is there something that you do that's different? We've unpacked a lot of it. You've mentioned a lot of it. I think being a supervisor, you're a mentor. You also tend to be a friend, a confidant. You also end up parenting some of these students. That there's a lot of empathy that's involved, a lot of emotional intelligence that you have to practice, Kenny.
Thank you so much, Prof, and thanks for showing us that the template that you use for your students. And as a request, if it's possible, please to share that with us, if it's okay
I'll
with
try
you.
to, yes.
Yeah, but I do that as well with my students, but also to also think about the time frame. To say, looking at your schedule and your timetable, when do you think you'll be done with this part and then this part, and so the budget time for the different sections, and yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that's important as well. It's something that I actually forgot to mention is that time frame, Kenny, is so important because, like we said, a lot of them are working. They've got a lot of things that they are balancing with their studies. We also have to meet the students halfway in that we good at giving as academics. We say, okay, deadlines for this, but you got to also listen. It's very important to listen to the needs of your students that you are supervising, and this goes for everyone. And I'm glad that Kenny brought this up, is that you need to listen to your students. So come to an agreement on a specific time frame. How long will it take you to complete your proposal? Or can you have your proposal done by a certain date? If not, let's look at what is more achievable. Okay? It's like I've had supervisors that I know of supervisors that will give their students like 2 weeks. I want this work done, and this is your submission date. You don't submit, and they're very harsh, but you've got to also, that is why the relationship that you're developing, this trust and relationship from the onset, you've got to communicate, you've got to listen to the needs of your students when you are supervising them, and you also got to make it achievable. All their tasks that they have to submit, all these progress reports and so on, has to be achievable. I mean, because I understand the needs of my students, because a lot of them are working. It's much like you are attending class right now. You're tired, but you're giving that time for your studies. You're balancing your time with your studies. I'm sure all of us had a hectic day today. We were lecturing, we were supervising, we were consulting, we had meetings to attend. We probably had teaching as well during the day. I have evening classes from Monday right up till Thursday, so including the Saturday one now. It's a lot to balance. And as I mentioned, I don't know whether I mentioned this, I did a second PhD, which I just submitted for exam. So I was busy balancing that as well. I don't know why, but this is what I chose to do. And it was a lot. And I was like, why did I even do this? And a lot of people, I know you're crazy, but it was just something I wanted as an accolade, that particular qualification. And I said, let me do it. But it was a lot because you're balancing the supervision, you're balancing your lecturing, you're balancing the studying as well. You guys are doing the same. You're studying, you're working, you're teaching, you're supervising, balancing along. Think of what, like Devashri said, put yourself in the shoes of the student, what your students are going through, and that work plan. I also try and look at the initial meetings. We have like one or two where we set the pace, have a roadmap for the student throughout for the rest of the journey for their studies. You've got to put achievable timelines and dates for the student. We can't be harsh in that, no, I want it in 2 weeks or I want it by this particular date, but somewhere, somehow, something's going to happen, and we know. So we got to be a bit more reasonable and listen to what the student can produce and keep them on the right track, but also don't be so lenient that the student takes advantage as well, because I've had this experience where you a bit lenient with the time schedule and so on, and they take advantage and they go, okay, no, you know what, it's okay, we can still pull it another few weeks, or you got to also, as much as you're building that trust and that relationship, you're mapping out their work plan, but you got to also maintain the boundaries, and you got to maintain how you supervise, and don't let the student take advantage of you as a supervisor. Boko?
Yes, Prof. No, I wanted to come in terms of when you are talking about student taking advantage of your kindness. So what I've resorted to, because sometimes they will go extreme. I will just give them the schedule and what needs to be submitted when, and then now I allow them to be the one that schedules the meeting with me, because I will schedule and then 30 minutes before the meeting, they cancel, or some they don't even show up.
Yeah.
I'll be waiting in the meeting room or in my office, nowhere to be found. So I tend to give them the responsibility to be the one that schedules the meeting with me.
Scheduled meetings.
Yes, but before I do that, I would try several times before I can do that with them.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
have similar situations where I also give them the opportunity to schedule after failing so many times. I'm like, okay, tell me your convenience but then it also, like you said, they don't know where to draw the line. That I have students where I'll be sitting online or I'll be waiting in my office and they just don't show up, but they requested that specific time. Okay, so yes, you can have this mentorship, you can have this trust, you can have this relationship with your students, but you must also know there's a boundary, and the students, as nice as you are, it's sometimes okay to be not nice, because then the students tend to be a bit more um, too familiar, as we say, with how you do things. Okay, and that is how they don't progress, and then you end up chasing after them and not meeting deadlines and so on, right? um okay, so everyone understands your assignment 1, assignment 2, you know what to do. So this is touching on your own practices, okay, and how you, so anyone, we're talking about all those concepts that we all use. Is there anyone that uses something different? You use a different practice. How many of you do group supervision? Any of you do group supervision? You don't do individual, but you get your whole group, maybe the honors group together or a master's group together. Does anyone do that? You want to share your experience on the group supervision and how that works? We spoke about individual, but I'd like to get your take on, especially with how they write, academic literacy skills and so on, reading, writing, comprehending. As a group, how is it done? Devashri?
Prof, can I?
Can't hear you?
Hello, can you hear me
Yes.
now?
Yeah, we can.
So when we had a few honor students, I mean, this year I'm only supervising 2, but previous years we had 4 allocated to us, and I found the group supervision to be very effective because I called one group meeting and I was able to have one conversation with the 4 students. I also found it very enabling because the students were able to draw from each other. And it wasn't just me giving them feedback where if they presented something, it was the whole group. So it kind of enhanced and supported the student. And they found support in each other in terms of resources or navigating certain areas. So that kind of lightened my workload. But different students work at different paces.
Yes.
So I had to be very cognizant of that and work with that very strategically. But it also allowed the students to be committed to the group. So
Yes.
it's were presenting something, that the other student was forced to also present because, in terms of that group modality. So I really liked that. It's very different from the individual supervision.
Yes.
Where I am, have to have an independent relationship with both candidates and in terms of their different areas of progress. Thanks, Prof.
Thank you so much for sharing that. The reason why I asked about the group supervision, because I've noticed that a lot of people have started doing that. Okay. Previous years, we used to just do the individual. And yes, it has helped because I found recently I've actually started doing that, like quite recent. And I started using that group sessions. And it's exactly what you're talking about in that they helping each other, especially with the honors and the master's students, they're helping each other. And they found it. They even told me that they found it quite useful because obviously I wanted feedback on whether these group works were actually working, or I go back to, I do still do the individual consultations. You have to, you can't just leave it there hanging. But the group work has helped, especially if all of them are in this, if you have a group that are in the same stage. So what I did is I grouped them into them being in the same stages of their research journey, in terms of those that were still at proposal, those grouped into developing the ethical clearance documents, those that were on the progress or data collection. So I kind of grouped them. So I made them work at paces. They vary stages, but I don't mix them up into one group, but I group them up like that. So they could work with each other because they're all in the same phase of their study, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So I didn't have a proposal and an ethics or final submission or first draft all in one group. So I kind of divided them. Yes, it was more work for me because now you had to really look at every student in the different phases of their research journey and grouping them up with those students that are in the same position, same stage, helping each other, and they progress at the same same pace, right? So I started doing that. It seems to be working so far. I'll see how it goes as the year progresses. Mfundo?
I want to bring something in terms of the group supervision, especially for honors students that have started. It's something that I've initiated in 2023 when I started being a supervisor for honors student.
Yeah.
I believe in constructive criticism, feedback, and the feedback, it shouldn't come from me as the supervisor, and it should be the feedback that is from another supervisor who has got the understanding of the student's work, or who has got who has got the understanding of the same students' work. So I've initiated a program which is a research colloquium for honors in corporate communication and media studies. So it's voluntary. No one is being forced to attend.
Yeah.
What they do, students, they present their research proposal. They did their research proposal in the first semester. In the second semester, they are writing the research essay. So before they write research essay, I ask them to present their research proposal in front of other students, and I invite 3 or 4 academics to give the feedback to students. This year, it was very good. We've seen an improvement. It started at 9 and we're done at 3 o'clock. And there were 26 students that presented. Others chose to not come.
Yes.
After the feedback provided by those lecturers or academics were in the venue with the student, we were so happy because there was engagement where students were able to provide constructive feedback to other students and say
To other
that,
students, yes.
yes, to other students, that, okay, what about putting this content? What about considering this way? I've actually watched this movie. I think it would be the best if you collect data and you analyze data in this way. It's gonna be convenient. It's gonna be easier for you. Then that was very good because that peer feedback from the student as well.
Yes.
It was insightful, and as a result, the HOD said, Mfundo, can you please feature the master's student and the PhD student in 2026? Because, wow, these discussions are very good. Yes, they've got the feedback from their lecturers. I believe that can you get the feedback from other people and also get the feedback from your peers? And we've been telling the student we're not conflicting your supervisors feedback with our feedback. Then you can take this feedback to your supervisor. Then you can have discussion and agreement in terms of what's the way forward with this work that you're doing, because supervision is not on it. Supervision is not, it shouldn't be one way. It should be two-way that, when the supervisor tells the students what to do, guides the student what to do, then I believe that the students need to come back and also say, sir, I don't agree, or I don't fully agree with what you said. I think it will be better if we approach this study in this manner, and then the students provide or substantiate the statement that I've made. And it is actually working, and it starts creating that enthusiasm to students in terms of research, because honors level, they perceive research as a boring module or as a boring subject. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Adding to that, I didn't do it at the honors. Well, I have done it at the honors level. It works. Those colloquiums to be done, and I'm glad you're doing the masters and PhD next year, is because we actually initiated that from last year. That colloquium for the masters and the PhD students come and present the proposals and so on. And they have exactly how you described it. They learn from each other. They get constructive criticism from a panel. You get in other academics that are in the discipline, even other departments that are within, like, multidisciplinary. And, they give you really good feedback. So those colloquiums, yes, do help. Teboko, honor students, group work, supervision does work, like I said, but you don't give up the individual meetings. They definitely need the support, and they will come to you as an individual to say, okay, can we consult now? So both work perfectly. Devashri?
Prof, I think that as much as we turn to group supervision, I think we also need to change the model in which we supervise, of having group supervisors, if that makes sense. And I think possibly that kind of model can also enhance, productivity rates and assist students quite a bit. So to have, for example, have a group of supervisors that are supervising, and they work within that group framework, I think that would be a very interesting model to engage with as well, if we
Yes.
embrace different supervision, uh, you know.
Yeah, no, I get you. But you're talking about group supervisors in terms of everyone having the same discipline and having supervision on a specific discipline.
Ideally, I think if you had to think of the past, definitely, let it be discipline specific. But as we move into an era of multidisciplinary, looking at the nexus of different areas, I think, we will see trends moving towards more collaborative kind of supervision areas. For example, there was a call out for a supervision project with Germany, and I think a couple of sister universities in South Africa, where they were looking at supervisors within the sustainability and rural. And you can see that they weren't disciplinary specific. So I think those kinds of group supervision, and I'm talking about the supervisors here, are something that's going to start emerging more and more. Thanks, Prof.
Yeah, so group supervision would be quite interesting in terms of having group supervisors. All right, so I wanted to go on to Unit 3, but we at 18:35. I don't want to start a completely new unit and then I'll start it fresh on Saturday. Someone had their hand up just now, and I think you guys are tired enough, so we can unpack it on Saturday. We'll start with Unit 3. All right. Any parting words? Any parting comments? Audio and slides for Saturday. I will have to contact the administrator for this module or for this program. I also had a problem with accessing the videos from my side. Okay, so we'll have that sorted out for you. I'll speak to them tomorrow. All right. Anything else? Any questions? Any comments? Any parting words? Andre?
Hi, Prof. Prof, I sent Prof an email. I think it was on Monday. I just want to check that Prof received it.
I received your email. I was actually going to respond to it, and then I went into a meeting, and sorry, it slipped my mind. I saw it. I
Okay.
acknowledge it, but you need
Okay.
to catch up. If not, then consult
Sure.
with me.
I will. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, perfect. Karen?
Also, same thing. Just checking if you saw my email. I'm traveling on Saturday and I'm not able to make it, but I will catch up.
Yes, I saw your email. I think yours came before Andre. So no, I acknowledge it. There were emails that came through. Sorry, it's just that this week, this week just got away from me. Yeah. No,
No, that's
I
fine.
do acknowledge it. I know that I've received yours. I've received
Thank you.
yeah, both Karen and Andre. Totally acceptable. You just need to catch up if you need help with anything, and that goes for everyone. If you want to do individual consults, I'm available. Okay, so we look at your availability, my availability, and then yeah, that goes for the whole class. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good evening and rest well. I'll see you on Saturday.
Thanks,
Thank
Prof.
you. Thanks very
Bye.
much.
Thank
All
you,
right, take
Prof.
care.
Bye.
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 Bye.